Whenever you want, we're ready.
All right.
Okay.
Team educators and distinguished participants, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and even good night. And a warm welcome to the 13th International Conference for Teachers of English, New Perspective in TEFL in the Post-Pandemic Era. It is an immense privilege to have each of you here today, joining us as we come together to explore and discuss important topics in teaching English as a foreign language in these transformative times. This session presents a remarkable opportunity to extend a heartfelt welcome to a distinguished scholar. With great pleasure, I introduce you to Dr. David Fay. Dr. Fay is the regional English language officers at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. He oversees public diplomacy outreach through English language teaching for the U.S. Department of State in Belize, Cuba, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. He has also served in Tashkent, Moscow, Lima, Ankara, and Islamabad. A Fulbright alumnus, he holds an undergrad degree in Latin American Studies in Spanish and graduate degrees in English language education, U.S. literature, and resource management. A native Iowan, David Fay became a diplomat in 2003, after near 2 decades as a teacher training, and publisher working in the United States, Costa Rica, Spain, and Turkey. Once more, I extend a sincere warm welcome to each of you. Let us approach this conference with minds receptive to new ideas and hearts open to collaboration as we collectively navigate the ever-evolving landscape of English language education. And now, without any further ado, I hand over the stage to Dr. Fay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Carmen. I wonder if someday we're going to introduce the expression, the screen is yours, given how much we use the screen to communicate. Maybe a few years from now, we'll actually say the screen is yours. Thank you, Carmen. That was a very nice introduction. I'm honored to be here. I want to go ahead and switch to share screen. So give me a second to see if I can do that. Looks like the host needs to enable screen share. Carmen, is that something you can do from your end?
Let me check.
Thank you.
You're okay, Dr. Share.
Now it's working. Perfect. Okay. Okay. All right. So before I tell us, I share with all of you rather, who I am and what our work at the Regional English Language Office is all about. I do want to say thank you to the organizers of this special event. I understand it's number 12. I also understand it's every 2 years, so 2025 will be number 13, which is also my lucky number. I want to especially thank Sally Soto, who reached out to me originally, Clara Chavez as well. Of course, the amazing family of Oscar and Carmen, who I just learned share the same last name as niece and uncle, which is always special. I also wanted to thank the 2 specialists that we were able to sponsor through the State Department English Language Specialist Program. Paul K. Matsuda, an old friend of mine and a wonderful English language teaching specialist. And of course, the very famous, the rock star, Dudley Reynolds, who's done a number of projects with colleagues, Regional English Language Office colleagues around the globe. I also wanted to thank my colleagues at the embassy, the US Embassy in Tegucigalpa, Gabriela Galvez, who I understand works very closely with the university and with other higher education contacts. She works with Irvin Jerez, Nahobi Flores, and I apologize, Nahobi, if I'm mispronouncing your name. Skarn Rivnine, who just arrived in Tegucigalpa, and he will be part of the public diplomacy team. And of course, Brian Strait. My work is largely through them. They are the ones who are busy arranging all of the great outreach that our mission does throughout Honduras. Trust me when I say that reaching English language educators like yourselves, it's definitely one of the priorities. So I would like this to be as engaging and as interactive as possible. What is interesting is that when I am in the share screen mode, I don't see the chat function. So I might bounce back and forth a little bit. If not, I do plan to go through this in about 20 to 25 minutes, the slideshow, and then open it up for discussion. So if you've got some questions, please, please, please jot them down, put them in the chat function. If you are joining us via YouTube, thanks to Carmen, we will also hopefully be able to get some of the questions that way. But please, I want you to not be shy. Part of what teaching a language is about is to assert oneself. And so I fully expect you to assert yourself through comments and questions. So you see a picture there, that's the team. Behind those hopefully friendly faces, you will see the name of the place that we are located in Mexico City, Biblioteca Benjamin Franklin. We are in the neighborhood of Colonia Juarez. Should any of you find yourself in the future in Mexico City for any reason whatsoever, please let us know. We would love to see you and welcome you at this wonderful library that we have. It's open to all, but again, our particular team that you see there is all about welcoming English teachers specifically. From the left is my colleague Ulises Corona. Then right next to him is our office director, who actually is in Washington, D.C., and only a few weeks ago has moved on to a new position. We soon will have a new office director, but he was with us only about 2 months ago, and it was an honor to have him. He considers the outreach we're doing in this region, as Carmen mentioned, the countries we cover, he considers it a priority, and we are thankful to him for coming down and visiting us. Next to him is the amazing Irene Violante. There you see there you see me, and then to the right is Jose Manuel Villafuerte. And together, the four of us, with the support from DC, are able to provide support to deserving educators like yourself. So maybe you'll recognize some of these photos as being very specifically from the country that I live in right now. I arrived in the fall of 2021, so about 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we were still really trying to get over this pandemic that has shaken the world. I was a little bit in awe. I was a little bit shocked. And I was also very pleased to be in this amazing city, Mexico City. Some of the things that shocked me was the fact that masks were hit or miss. There were a number that had it, a number that didn't. And as you see from this great biking photo, you have a family there, two of whom are wearing the masks and one who is not. I was also shocked by, I must admit, the the references to what would be considered the calavera, the skull, and the skeletons. As you know, there is a way of rejoicing and accepting death in a different way here in Mexico than I think I've experienced anywhere else in the world. It was a bit of a shock. Down at the right is this amazing street food that one cannot avoid. But it is a little bit of a shock to see the number of places. On any given street, you've got anywhere between 1 and 20 of these amazing vendors that are selling all kinds of delicious food. As somebody coming from the outside, you're always wondering why are there so many, and should I try it? Should I? Is it safe? Is it something that will sit well with my stomach? I wonder where you were in spring of 2020, summer 2020 through 2021. I wonder whether you were teaching online. I'm guessing the answer is yes. I'm wondering what was going through your mind. I wonder how much fear there was about the future, how much uncertainty you held in your heart. And I also wonder how much you were thinking as well about, of course, your students. I was already well into my 50s when COVID hit. And I have 2 sons who were in their early 20s at the time, who had to all of a sudden shift to online instruction. They were both at the university, and I saw the difficulties that they were going through. And I believe as teachers, we all have a high level of empathy for the students that we're teaching. I'm guessing that because you're joining this professional development opportunity, that you are doing it out of empathy as well for your students, that you want to be the best you can be for your students. And I suppose the reason I'm getting at all of this is what it means to go through transitions, what it means to embrace new ideas, what it means to not be judgmental, to wait, to listen, to observe before deciding if something is good or bad or acceptable or not. Sometimes I worry that perhaps social media has a tendency to push us into very sharp opinions about issues that we might have been more willing to embrace were we discussing the issues in person. Something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this painting. I've learned of Carmen Escalante, one of the new artists in Honduras, and again, because I like bikes, I decided I wanted to put it there. Part of it was my escape during COVID was to be able to get out on my bike, see something beautiful outside, take a deep breath, and there's a reason I'm showing this, and I'll save it. But I want to ask you, in 2020, 2021, were you fatigued by being on the screen too much? As we were saying, the screen is yours. Were we using that a little bit too much? Were you recuperating from strained or frayed relations? Did you have some level of anxiety about your situation? This is a really important question, this third one. Do you think as a result of what you experienced during the pandemic, that you were less willing to take risks? That's really key because I think it's tied in very closely to language learning in general. I would like to think that any language teacher nurtures in their students a healthy acceptance of risk. If we don't take risks, if we don't make mistakes, then I believe our learning pace is slowed down considerably. And so I do wonder if we were, if we've lost a certain level of risk taking. Were you experiencing lower levels of motivation and knowledge in your classroom? Did this turn into a gap between what your curriculums, whether it's your school's curriculum, your country's curriculum, or your own personal expectations of your students, between that and what the students were actually able to do? I think I've heard that from many teachers, that there was a slowing down of education in general, of what the students were absorbing, of what they were able to do. And as we transitioned back into in-person education, when we really had the students in our classroom and were able to experience firsthand their levels, did we see this major drop in levels? What have we needed to do to try to bring those students back up to the level that we feel they should be at for the year of study they're in? And then finally, maybe the one silver lining of COVID, did we become hopeful for the environment? Did we see a resurgence of green because we were not allowed to go out and about? Was the air cleaner in Tegucigalpa? At that time, I was in Ankara, Turkey, and we could not see across the valley before COVID. Once the COVID restrictions took place, we saw everything as clear as possible, stretching for miles and miles and miles. I do worry though, because as countries' economies picked up after those restrictions ended, I believe that those views became gray and smoggy again. Maybe we need to consider a month every year when we close off all industry and travel. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think we need to do something. So those are my questions to you, questions to reflect upon. As an office, as the Regional English Language Office at the US Embassy in Mexico City, we decided to try to solve some of these issues by addressing them directly through some aspect of content or methodology. And there you see the 4 areas that we've been focusing on over the past 2 years. The first one, I believe, is no surprise. It's a huge issue. It continues to be a huge issue. I'm not sure it will ever go away. I believe there are a lot of different reasons for it being a huge issue, but that was the first, socio-emotional learning. The second, integrating technology into the classroom. As much as people embraced the fact that they were going back into in-person instruction, I don't think we will ever leave aside the things that we saw happen with regard to the efficiency of some aspects of technology. I believe that even if we are conducting classes in person, we should be able to convey and share some content via digital technology. I realize that access to the internet or to a gadget could be questionable in some contexts. I know throughout our region that as you get into more and more rural regions of the country, it's much harder to find that access that we are used to in the city. And we need to take that into consideration. We need to make sure that we are as equitable as possible with our students. We owe that to our students. But I do believe that that technology, digital technology specifically, is here to stay. Project-based learning, the collaborative aspect of project-based learning, I think, is essential to language learning. We need to use the language with others, not in isolation, and we need to use it to solve, hopefully, real-world problems, such as the last one, that of climate change, We need to build environmental awareness in our students. On the right, you see a couple of pictures. The top one, again, our fearless office director, together with a group of educators. Our English language fellow here in Mexico City is right next to our office director. I will talk a little bit more about the work of our English language fellow, but I wanted to impress upon you the fact that there are in-person sessions and we find them essential to any kind of professional development. And then down at the right, a Zoom, kind of along the lines of what we're doing right now. This was a recent activity that we did only a few days ago. And I will talk a little bit more about that. I'm not sure if you can read at the bottom, it says ECHO PBL for tourism educators. I'm guessing this would be a course that would be of interest to you in Honduras, given the beauty of your country. So, where might you as educators find these resources, find these tools? American English is the moniker that we use to reach educators around the globe. We have a website, americanenglish.state.gov. That is our main repository of professional development opportunities and resources. If you look here, though, you are seeing on this screen the YouTube version of our repository. And what is interesting here, if you take a look, I typed in the keyword socio-emotional, and we have right there several webinars, recorded webinars, specifically about socio-emotional learning. These are all about 1 hour long, so they're fairly, it's a fairly digestible amount of time. But I wanted you to see these videos because I think they are a great resource if you are interested in learning more about different aspects of SEL. Hopefully you will take advantage of this. And this is the American English YouTube channel. And by simply Googling it or going into YouTube and typing in American English, you should be able to find this fairly easily. The second topic I mentioned, integrating technology into the classroom. Again, on our main website, americanenglish.state.gov, you will see an icon at the top that says MOOCs. And if you click on it, you will be taken to openenglishprograms.org. Why the different URL? It's because we have an implementing partner that developed this website for us. And inside this website, you will find a long list of massive open online courses. There is one specifically about integrating technology into the classroom. Right now, at this moment, it is not offered as a MOOC, but every several months, they reintroduce the MOOCs that are available. There are only so many MOOCs we can run at the same time. And so we pick and choose depending on what might be of interest at that time. The one that you will find up right now is the English for Media Literacy for Educators, one that is also intimately connected to this idea of digital literacy. And I hope that you take advantage of this course. We think that the course takes, I don't know, about 4 to 6 weeks to complete if you have 3 to 5 hours a week to dedicate to the course. But it is an outstanding course. And if you can see the dates down below, it will be open until, let's see, November 27th. So quite a bit of time. Once you get settled into your academic calendar, I hope this is something that you can do. Some other things that we've done, if you see in the upper right-hand corner, again, our English language fellow, Maestra Góngora Baltasar, she put together an amazing course for a group of future, let me put it this way, educators of future educators. So like your own university, we instead here in Mexico have the normales, these pedagogical institutes, preparing the future generation of educator. She works with these educators who are preparing those future educators. And she is able to take advantage of these open courses that are being offered. What is important about this are two things. One, we are always happy to work with institutions like your own or any of the other institutions that you represent as viewers. We can find virtual specialists, we can find virtual educators, folks that will be able to come in and work on a project over several months. Many of these projects are related to professional development. And what I think is really special is that all of the content that is offered through the open program is open source. It is in the Creative Commons. And so it can be replicated, it can be reused. The courses can be downloaded into the Canvas platform. They can be modified in the Canvas platform to suit your specific context, and they can be delivered. You can do them yourself. Some of the open alumni, I'm not sure if we have any open alumni viewing right now. If you are an open alumnus, you will know what the Canvas platform is like. And it is a fairly easy lift to turn these great courses into a tailor-made course. Down at the bottom right, this is a picture from Cuba, one of the other countries that we're serving. As you might guess, we have some connectivity issues in Cuba. The actual picture is in something called the American Space at the embassy there in Havana. The wonderful young lady that you see in the picture is one of our virtual educators, and she ran a teacher training program on teaching grammar communicatively with this group of teachers in Cuba. It's a great group to be working with. The issue that we had outside of the embassy was getting through to them, and so we did it all via WhatsApp. We will find workarounds, we will find options. We are trying to be as creative as possible with the way that we reach our participants. PBL. I have a few resources and project examples up there. At the top left, the YouTube channel, again, another webinar that we have recorded on our YouTube channel that we hope you can take advantage of. Upper right is an example from a specialist, a virtual specialist. I think this was a great project. The title is Virtual Adventures in the Center of the Americas, Building Websites Using PBL. This was developed with the country that he was serving in. It's a tailor-made project. And again, this is a project we could be working in Honduras on. Down at the bottom right is English Teaching Forum. It's available online. We have over 20 years archived online through the americanenglish.state.gov website. And notice the title, Exploring and Expressing Culture Through PBL. And then finally at the bottom left, this is the course that we're running in Chiapas in southern Mexico. We just started this class. In fact, right after this plenary, I will be jumping into a Zoom session with this group of wonderful teachers. Some are English teachers, others are tourism teachers, and we are working with an NGO as well as with a couple of universities in Chiapas to help teachers better teach English with a strong focus on ethical, ecological, and environmentally sound tourism practices. We found that many students from high schools, vocational schools, and universities find themselves working in tourism, and we want to make sure that some of the ideas that come from this course will have an impact on local tourism. The last topic, and then I'm going to be turning it over to you. Environmental awareness. I cannot stress this enough. It is part of everything that we do. Even at the top, interestingly, an English for the automotive sector course that we designed for the vocational universities here in Mexico. We have one on automotive, one on hydrocarbon, one on information technology, and one on tourism. These are university students with a fairly high level of English, B1 and B2. We've worked with some amazing English language specialists on this course, and we found that the industry standards here have pushed for stronger environmental criteria in all aspects of manufacturing. Luckily, the world seems to be growing wiser. There are places that demand this kind of credentialing that allows small automotive sector industries to sell their product. And so we found it actually quite easy to be able to talk using PBL as well to solve real world problems in the automotive sector. You may remember several years ago the scandal with Volkswagen and their issue with cars, monitoring cars and the exhaust systems. We use that as one of our examples, one of our many examples for this particular course. We have the students work with the content, solve the problem. We are looking not only at environmental awareness, but again at ethics, which is crucial. Down at the bottom right, these are our Access alumni. We have a wonderful Access program about to get going again in Honduras within hopefully the next few months. This is a group of alumni, and we are working with university students who are Access alumni to basically make sure they have a better understanding of environmental awareness. Down at the bottom left, we have a wonderful new chunk of material. It is called Critical Creativity in Action. They are a grouping of cards that can be downloaded, printed out, and used. Where do you find them? AmericanEnglish.state.gov. Again, this is all open source content. What next for us? At the top, you will see a number of projects that we are working on. These will all be ready within the next, 3 to 6 months. We have 2 exchange programs to TESOL, which is going to be in Tampa this year in Florida. We will be working with the embassy to identify deserving educators to come to Tampa to get some kind of further professional development. It is not only TESOL, but it's also a week of training. In this case, we are looking at 2 very important topics: trauma-informed teaching, very much related to socio-emotional learning, as well as environmental conservation and sustainability, another very, very important area to focus on a global level. We have a new open course that we just piloted, so you should see it as available within the next few months: Teaching for the Future, English teaching to take on climate change. And then finally, through the Access program, we will have some new lesson plans available specifically to address the issue of climate change. Again, open source, and we will be sharing them through the embassy. So that's my presentation. I think I've spoken enough. I did want to just leave you with a wonderful painting that I came across about the Garifuna, and I apologize if I'm bungling the pronunciation of that culture, which is very much alive in Honduras. Why do I include that? I think this presentation has been about adaptability, about learning to learn, about resilience. And I hope that as educators, if there's one thing that you take away from that, is that we all continue learning. The fact, again, that you joined this very important professional development conference means that you are dedicated to learning, and I congratulate you for that. And may we pass that passion on to our students. With the way the world is changing, with the unpredictability of so many things that are happening in the world, if there's one thing I know we should be doing, is helping our students adapt, helping them transition to, in some cases, very sudden changes, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's related to the environment, or whether it's something that is security, economic, or politically related. We need to make sure that our students are ready to adapt. Thank you so much. I am going to close this screen view, and let me bring this back up. I will stop sharing. And this is when I ask any and all of you to share any questions or comments, anything that you may agree with or adamantly disagree with. I am happy to respond here in the chat group. Over to you. Carmen, were there any comments or questions coming up on YouTube?
There is one question that says, these resources are fantastic, from one of the participants.
Oh, good. Good to hear.
But there are no questions yet.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
If there are no questions, I do have a question. I would like to know if, like, how we can participate in any of these programs, if you can elaborate on that. I saw some of the programs that are very interesting, and I don't know, maybe in the future I would like to attend. So is that possible or not really?
It's definitely possible. So the penultimate slide that I shared, actually, I didn't mention it, but I should have, is the Facebook page for our office. So if you are in Facebook and you search for Regional English Language Office, Mexico, you will find our Facebook page. It's the easiest way to find it. Our Facebook page is regional, and our Facebook page will share many of these opportunities. If they are opportunities that are open to all on a regional basis, which is basically everything that comes from our office in DC, then we will share those on Facebook. The other way to do it is through the U.S. Embassy in Tegucigalpa. I'm not sure exactly what is passed on and to who. I believe that, like every embassy, there's a database of English language instructors. I believe that Gabriela would be the point of contact for that. And so if there's something that is specific to Honduras, where we're, for example, offering scholarships for the open program, then she would be the one who would be getting out information about how to apply. For the exchange programs, we approach things in two different ways. In some cases, they are open calls for applications. So similar to the Fulbright program that you probably were involved in, Carmen, it would have been an open call for applications. In other cases, they're candidates who are identified by the embassy. In other words, they select without opening it up to competition. Some of that will depend on the embassy's sort of strategic vision. Some of it depends on the timing that they have, if they have a lot of time or not to be able to actually get an announcement out and vet those applications. What I will say is that for those that are selected, the more active you are, the more involved you are, the more likely it is that you would be selected for participation in something like that. So again, I would have to defer to my embassy colleagues for that selection process.
Thank you. I will be in touch with, I don't know, other colleagues so we can get together sometime maybe and check what is in there. So Dr. Linares says, thank you for such a wonderful conference. My question is, how can we integrate topics such as climate change into the regular curriculum in mainstream classrooms, which are usually dominated for textbook-based teaching?
That's a great question. Thank you, Dr. Linares, for asking that. I can give you the quick answer, and then I can also connect you with somebody who just finished a project that specifically addresses this. I think that the quick answer is that from what I've noticed, in even if they are very standard course books, there are topics everywhere that resonate with the climate change issue. I don't think it's possible to get away with it. I think the easiest way is to twist the topic and simply ask those participants, how do they see it connected to climate change? That, again, I realize I'm not really answering your specific context, which may be much more dependent on student language levels, background knowledge, etc. So I apologize for that. The other answer is that we have been working with an English language specialist who's based in Minnesota, here in Mexico, to adapt lesson plans from commercial textbooks so that they have a bigger emphasis on the climate change topic. I would be happy to put you in touch with that specialist. I know that everybody in the organizing committee with this convention has my email address. If you write to me directly with this question, I'm happy to connect you to the specialist. She created a course on Canvas that works through different steps for adapting the content. And again, it might not be appropriate for your specific context, but perhaps there will be a few ideas in there that you would be able to use.
Dr. Linares says, thank you very much, David, and that will be great. I'll get back to you for context on this topic. We have another comment from Dr. Ulloa. She says, thank you for your presentation. I agree with the fact that we have learned to adapt to a new norm. The most important thing is to be able to move on and embrace all that made us different and better teachers.
Thank you. That's very generous of you, very kind of you.
We have one more question, one more comment from Ms. Sevilla. She said, your presentation was really interesting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very kind of you.
Let me check again if we have questions on YouTube. Oh, so we have another comment from Carlos Torres. He says, thanks for taking our culture into consideration in your talk. It was amazing. Somebody else says, thank you for the input. on PVL. What a wonderful idea. And that person has a question, and it is, what are your thoughts on PVL for one-on-one English tutoring?
Ooh, now that is a good question. Wow. So a project, in a sense, really relies on a sort of collaborative approach. I think it still could be done on an individual level. I think one would need to think a little bit more about how to approach it, where somebody is possibly going out and building up stakeholders that are perhaps interviewees or people who play some contributory role in the project. The other approach, I suppose, that could be done is where on one-on-one, you come up with an issue that you want to try to solve. You map out a way to try to solve it. You turn the driver's, the steering wheel, excuse me, the role of the driver over to the student that you're tutoring. And then the tutor, herself or himself, would then become one of the other partners and would need to defer to the student as they work through this project. So that would be another way of approaching it. I think what I would probably do is also Google it and see what comes up, because I think it's such an interesting little question. I think that the real key here is how to turn it into something a little bit more collaboratory. Granted, PBL is really, it can be an entire shift in a curriculum, or it can be an activity itself. If you're moving from project to project in one-on-one tutoring, I suppose you could still consider it project-based learning. You're not getting necessarily as much interaction as you would expect if you were doing group work, but it's possible. Thank you for that wonderful question.
Thank you for your answer, Dr. and Faye. I don't see any more questions nor comments, so I think we're very close to the end.
Well, thank you, Carmen. Thanks for shepherding this along, and I respect all of the good work that you're doing in Honduras. Please know that even though we're a few countries away, a few borders away, we're really not that far, and we're here to serve you. We're here to help you. Please don't be shy. If there's some ideas, if there's some recommendations you might have that we could be exploring with you, let us know. Please let us know. I shared my 2 email addresses in the chat box. Carmen and the other organizers, I leave it up to you to determine how you might want to share that information. I will continue working through our embassy colleagues on determining how best to move forward with our support to you. But please know that you mean a lot to us. And I thank you for everything that you're doing to help your students on those, deal with those issues that I mentioned in my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor, and I hope we get together in 2025 in the next conference. I hope to see you.
Thank you, Carmen.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.